Hello to all our young people in St. Columba's College. Stuart Wilson here from Zest Life Therapeutic Services. I hope you're keeping well. Little did I know at the beginning of this year when we got to meet in person that we'd be having this conversation via a video on the back of a pandemic. So yeah, strange times we find ourselves in. I'm putting through a little bit of a video. I hope this will be of a little bit of benefit for you. I'm humbly making some suggestions that I think might be beneficial on the back of the government communication around the Leaving Cert being extended into July and August and the difficulties that that could potentially create. So if it's okay, I'm going to share with you my screen here, and hopefully you should see Zest Life Therapeutic Services coming up there. And from there, just to move on for a moment. First of all, I just wanted to start by saying I'm really sorry, because I think that the circumstances we find ourselves under are quite extraordinary. I want to give you a little bit of an idea what to expect over the next 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to suggest a few tips and tools that I think might be helpful. And I'm doing this in a video context so that you can shut me off if you want to, but also that you can watch it in a few goes, or you can look back over it if that's any help to you at all. So with that in mind, I'm just going to take up about 15 or 20 minutes of your time. The first thing that I've written in here is that this is a bizarre set of circumstances, and I actually feel like I need to apologize to you as we start this off, because this is incredibly unfair. The situation you find yourself in, where you have had your summer taken away from you and an extension through into July and August for your leaving certificate, is not easy. So I am sorry that you find yourself in these circumstances. It's not ideal, and one that I would love to see be different. However, we are where we are, and I want to try and be able to assist us accordingly. You may also be concerned about the virus itself and impact on family. You may have some family members involved in the front line. I put a video together for parents to try and assist parents to assist our young people, and was thanking them for anybody who's involved in the front line assisting this pandemic and all that's happening with it. So you may be concerned about grandparents or even parents who may be involved in the front line. So it's not easy, and it's difficult, and it's a fearful time. It's a little bit scary at the moment, so I do understand that. So I've written up here, it's good to moan. My grandmother used to say to have a problem shared is to have a problem halved, that if we get it out of our system and communicate it and talk about it, that it actually is a good thing to do. I have an incredible 5 kids of my own, and I have an incredible daughter who's 16, who said to me one time when I was moaning about something, "Dad, you need to cry a river, build a bridge, and then get over it." That was probably good advice for me at the time, but it is important for us to be able to get this out of our system, and it is good to moan about it. It's incredibly important to get it out. The second part of this is I love this picture of the teddy bear saying that having a hug and saying, although they're not social distancing, which is important, to not need necessarily to fix anything, but in some cases just to feel like you're supported or cared for is really important. And our normal go-to people or our lean-on people, in some cases it might not even be available. For some of you, you may be at home with parents or family, and for some of you, you may be your parents might be abroad, and therefore you're with friends or family and find yourselves in difficulty missing family members that you're not with. So it's very difficult and very different for everybody. I want to ask you this question: who is your lean-on person? Who are you going to? It's really important that we have somebody. And actually, if we're struggling with that, to almost, in a strange way, go stalk somebody, go get somebody who you know will be a lean-on person. I mean that in a good sense, who you know will be there for you and who will be available for you. That could be a teacher who you can connect with online. It could be a parent. It could be somebody within your SAN department. It could be somebody who you just know. If I go to them, it could be a housemaster or housemistress, but I know if I connect with them, they're going to be available for me. They're going to assist me. Or it could be a friend who you can do that with. It's almost like telling them you do appreciate them and that you're going to maybe need to lean on them just a little bit more at the moment. And I'd love, if it's possible, for you to offer yourself as well to some people who you feel that would be helpful for them to hear from you. It's more difficult, obviously, if you're not with your family right now. And I'm going to talk about how we can create connectivity and communicate in ways that will assist us as well a little bit later on. It's also okay, for this first week of the pandemic, I found myself really off center just because the routine, the normality of every day was different. The routine is completely changed. And I realized, you know what, it's also okay to not be okay. That we need to be aware of that. If we're not feeling good or we're feeling a bit down, that's okay. Not to stay there, but to try and assist ourselves out of that. How do we do that? And I've written in here, well, then it's definitely okay to ask for help. There are the times where it's essential to reach out to somebody and to lean on someone. So who's your go-to person? Who are you leaning on? If you find you haven't got somebody to lean on or connect to, please reach out. Talk to your SAN department, talk to school, talk to therapeutics within school, assist and ask, because there are people there that are available for you if you find yourself in difficulty. I've put in a few points for 3 here, which I'd like to work with, if that's okay. And this is getting us into, well, what can we do for ourselves? How can we help ourselves? It's almost the boring stuff, but it really impacts. I've written in the word routine 3 times. Routine, routine, routine. Getting up in the morning at a reasonable time, getting into our day. I strongly suggest, if it's okay, that when you get up every morning, if you're just getting up with the intention of study or the intention of going online to do schoolwork or whatever, it can be very difficult to get out of bed. I always say, if you can, start your day with someone or something that gets you out of bed. Maybe that's a walk, maybe that's having a coffee with somebody on Zoom, maybe that's connecting with a group of friends online on House Party or something, but something where you know, if I get up for that reason, it's much better on my brain to get up for that, rather than getting up just to sit at a desk and to start straight into my day. Sometimes I find that if I'm connecting with other people and I'm doing research or something, if I'm connecting with other people, then I can kind of have a united approach to going to do some research. So freshen yourself up and prepare to go to study, if that makes sense. Routine about social connection is also terribly important. So having connectivity during your day where you know at certain times during your day, almost scheduled. It might sound weird to say that, whereas most of the time we react and just ring a friend when we want to. It's almost having it scheduled where we are definitely going to connect with people. And I suggest that we really bring that into our day if we can. I've mentioned here, establish a study place. Again, this might sound so simplistic, but if your study place to go is your bedroom, I'm not saying that that's not okay, but if you have somewhere else that you can go to study, where, because if your bedroom needs to be your place of kind of little sanctuary of peace and tranquility to be able to sleep. And sometimes having lots of study things in that space can be difficult. So if you've got a place in your room, which is a little bit away from your bed or whatever, where you can do that, that's fine. And if it's working for you, don't change it. That's brilliant. But preferably not your room, and make sure that your space is obviously somewhere you can go that's not cluttered, that's reasonably tidy, and that you feel good when you go to, if that makes sense. It's so simplistic, but sometimes we just don't think about this. We get down and get the head down and we work, and we don't think about it. Take breaks, take study time, take chill out time from your study. Play with the dog, the cat, or the hamster. I don't suggest you play with all 3 together, because that could be dangerous, but certainly take time out to get away from it all. Go for walks, play music, read a book, whatever it is that is your go-to things to do. Please, please, please find things to do like that. You know, I love it. There's a simplistic little method that I have called the wellness jar, where I have a jar full of just Post-its of different things that when I want to take a break, I'll pull one of those things out, and it might say listen to music, it might say you know, play with the dog, it might say go for a walk, but they're little things that I will just take out of my wellness jar to say, if I do those things, it's going to make me feel better. So have things that you know you can do, and assist yourself when you take breaks. I've written in eat properly and well. Just be careful on your nutrition. If you're anything like me, for the first week, I ate all sorts of terrible things, but it's incredibly important, because now we have a marathon from where we are now after Easter up towards the Leaving Cert, not in June, but now in July. Then it's not a sprint anymore. It's a marathon. We've got to take the timing to be right in that. And that means taking time out as well. And incredibly important in that is also to take days out where you might say, I'm taking a break from study, I'm going to work, but take a break from study up to that point. I've written in socialize and connect, and it's hugely important to connect with family. If you find yourself away from your family at the moment because of this pandemic, incredibly important to connect. And I don't mean just connect when at the end of the day you're tired and maybe it's just a catch up or catch in kind of conversation, but also even simple little things when your family, if they're abroad and you can create the time zones correctly or whatever, are having dinner, that maybe you can have dinner with them at the same time, that you feel connected, not just having to intentionally listen or speak, but also to just be present and to be involved in chit chat and small conversations, so that you feel included in aspects of family life, not just a conversation about how everything's going and how your study is, the same conversations we have over and over and over again, but actually to just be present is really helpful. Play a board game, play cards, do whatever it is that makes you feel good, but that it's connectivity as opposed to just reporting on how everything is. Socializing and creating that connective time is really important. And nowadays it's wonderful because we can do that on Zoom, etc., and be or on Google Teams or something, and be very present. One that I have found really helpful has been to be quite intentional about relationships at the moment. And that is just writing little letters to people or writing a note to somebody and sending it off. Two of my daughters last week got notes from friends in school in the form of a letter, which was lovely. And actually, there's something really lovely about a letter coming through your door. And that hugely lifted their spirits for a couple of days. And on the back of that, each of them started to send out, some were drawings and they sent out from some friends, some were notes or some were letters to say that they're grateful for their friendship, etc. And they sent out, half a dozen each from both of them to various different friends. And that was wonderful. And I believe on the other end, mothers and fathers told us that when it was received by those kids meant an awful lot. I put in a picture of our brain here just so a little bit of science for a moment. Incredibly important at this time is exercise. Now, I'm not even talking about mental health. Sorry, I'm not even talking about particularly about cardiovascular. I'm talking about mental health. A young person who's with me here recently said to me that the impact of the day has been very interesting, because when you're in school all day, if you think about it in St. Columba's, you're moving from place to place, going from one room to another perhaps, or going to a locker or going to different parts of the buildings. Including PE, including games, including after school activities, you use up so much energy and steps in just doing your day. Whereas now that's completely changed. And to make it 10 times worse, we've also added in, those of you who've heard me speak before know I speak a lot about screen time and how important that is, and how it can impact in a negative sense. I'm a techie, so I love technology, but how it can impact on a negative sense on our brains. So if we are on normal for your age group, it would be about 5 hours a day. But in the light of what we find ourselves in this pandemic, it's well over 10 hours a day, quite often for between phones, iPads, study, screen time, Zoom meetings, Google Teams, whatever, that we are well over the 10 hours. We have to realize that that's massively impacting on our mental wellness. Now, no problem. Once we understand that, we can deal with it. But just to realize that we tend to be, if we don't deal with that, more edgy, more reactive, more emotive, and react out of that space, rather than having what we see here in the neocortex, a fully developed rational thinking part of our brain, which doesn't fully develop until our mid-20s. So we're reactional much more of the time. How can we help ourselves? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this, if that's okay now. Your preparation for your sleep is your most important thing when you're in sixth year, in your study, obviously nutrition, etc. But your sleep is incredibly important for brain replenishment and for assisting our cells to bring down our cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, and our serotonin, which is your moods, hormone produced for moods. So your serotonin and your serotonin and your cortisol rise and drop over the day. When we have excess use of screen times, which in theory should only be about 2 hours a day, but now probably 10 hours a day. When we have excess usage of screens, it produces more cortisol in our central nervous system because of the backlight on our devices. So our cortisol levels are going up and our serotonin levels tend to come down when that happens. So when we're getting ready for heading towards bedtime, if at all possible, knowing that we're on screens much, much more, and that's okay at the moment, that we are doing something to assist those levels. Bring down your cortisol, increase the serotonin. Because if you go to bed and fall asleep with the cortisol levels too high, your body will fall asleep, but your brain takes time to go into a REM sleep, a brain replenishment sleep, and it can be delayed for a number of hours, science would say. So for roughly an hour and a half before your bedtime, folks, if at all possible, try to make sure your phones are out of your room, but also that you have no screen time, about an hour and a half before bedtime. Ideally, and I'm not saying we can all do this all of the time, but ideally that you do the 4 things that I'm going to mention now. Get out for a cardiovascular, little bit of exercise, not a workout, just a mental health walk. Get out and have a little walk, because that brings down cortisol levels and increases serotonin. Now you're ready for sleep, because your sleep patterns, your melatonin rise with your serotonin, with your moods, whereas cortisol, which is the stress hormone, will stop melatonin, which is sleep, rising or delay it. So getting out for a walk is brilliantly helpful. Talking face-to-face with other human beings, not on a screen, human beings face-to-face, does the same, brings down your cortisol level and increases your serotonin, and it allows your melatonin to rise. Reading, if you've got a book beside your bed or some magazines beside your bed, please keep them there and read them at nighttime just before you're heading off to sleep. It's the ideal thing. It does the same, brings down cortisol, increases serotonin, allows melatonin to rise. Or any of you who are creatives, who know from art, from journaling, from doodling, from even jigsaws, or from creating or making or playing, know that writing, which is the thing that I've mentioned there, also brings down cortisol levels and increases serotonin, allowing melatonin to rise. So if at all possible, make sure your sleep is in a good space. And once in bed, if you find yourself not able to sleep, break the cycle, go downstairs, perhaps have a glass of milk or do whatever it is that you want to do, but don't watch screens, because that immediately, even though you might say, well, it makes me tired and helps you to go to sleep, it doesn't. It might make your body tired and therefore you'll fall asleep, but your brain doesn't go into replenishment sleep. And it's really important, if you can, to not go to screens. Read a book for a few minutes if you wish, but don't go back into screens if that's possible. I'm going to finish off, it's okay, by saying this. I can't believe you're in this situation, and I feel horrific that we're actually even having to have this video, because it shouldn't be. However, you are going to create history here. You are the only people probably in history in our lifetime who are ever going to do your Leaving Cert through a pandemic. And you've been put into this situation, and I wish it wasn't the case. But I would love, if possible, for us to look at it a little bit differently and think outside the box. And I'd love to champion you into assisting you and encouraging you, and hopefully creating some motivation for you to say, we can do this, we can get through this, it will manage, it'll be okay. You're creating history by doing that, but we need to choose that, because it won't just happen. Any of you who know, I don't do what I sometimes call falling into bed, the acronym BED, BED, where we fall into blame or excuses or denial, where we kind of blame, oh, it's the Leaving Cert, it's the government, it's this or it's that, or it's even the pandemic. You know, it's easy for us to do that. I'd love to, I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to go whitewater rafting, but I love the idea of being, well, first of all, it's a bit scary, as is the metaphor for life, but it can be that we start off in lovely, calm serenity and listening to the animals around us. It's a little bit scary because you're getting into an inflatable boat, which I'm not sure about anything that could be a boat that could be burst with an earring, but forever think about it that way. But we get into the boat, all we have is a little helmet, a little vest, and our oar. And the acronym of oar is what I'd love to hopefully champion for you, which is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. This is your Leaving Cert. No matter what happens in all of this, no matter what anyone does for you, no matter what anyone assists you with, you've got to sit and do this at the end of the day. And I want to encourage you as best we can to take ownership as best you can for that, to certainly ask for help. The accountability, the accountability side of it is that we want to be there for you in any way that we can, whether it's therapeutically with me, I'm available for you if I can help in any way at all, in any shape or form. If you're struggling with any anxiety or upset or concerns around this, we want to be available for you, both through the SAN department in St. Columba's College and through ourselves in Zest Life. We're here for you. But we want to encourage you to take ownership and accountability. The OR part of the OA, or the OR part of that, is responsibility. And that is this. I think that's the action part, where we're saying, yeah, okay, I am going to take ownership and be accountable here. And I am going to be responsible. I'm going to follow through and do this. And to be okay with having to go through the steps that we've talked about, moaning and leaning on someone, etc., and doing all of that. But actually, I am going to try and champion this myself. And I really, really mean this when I say it to you. I really wish the best for you. I do believe the best is yet to come. I do believe that you've got great futures. And I do believe that, you know what, we can all get through this if we lean on each other and assist each other as best as is possible. And I just want to champion you guys in this, that you can do it. And truthfully, and I mean this genuinely, that you know, I look forward to seeing you on the other side of this in different circumstances, with hopefully all this behind us. And I hope you and your families and everyone you love remain safe and well, and take care of yourselves, and God bless you. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye bye.